On True Patriot Love, the East Coast tour continues. We're in PEI, Tignish, right? We made it. Then we have Joe Dorgan here for North Atlantic Organics.
Right.
So welcome. Thank you for spending the time with us today.
Not a problem.
So Joe, we drove up, right? First of all, beautiful, right? We're from Ontario, so we never see anything like this, right?
Okay.
So before we get into, what you founded, your company, and also, how you've changed the world with it, I just want to learn a little about you. So as I was driving up, I thought to myself, how does Joe, how does he find Tignish? How does he make it here? So were you born in PEI?
Born right here. Fifth generation on this ground here.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And so Jim is how I know, right? I met you today, Jim Whalen, and I know a little bit about Jim's background. So did you guys always farm? Is that so?
We farmed here all our life. Our old man farmed, our grandfather, our great grandfather, everybody was farmer. Now we're still farming. My son's one son is not on the farm. He was in the service. He retired from the service. My other son is into the fishing business, and my grandsons, they're into the lobster fishing business.
Oh, okay.
We farmed all our life. This place has always been farmed.
Okay. Cattle farming.
Cattle, pigs. It was a mixed farm. But I was a dairy farmer.
Yeah.
The land, we grew potatoes.
Okay.
And it was a farmer pretty well every. Now we just keep a few beef cattle, grow our own feed and stuff like that there.
Yeah.
I'm 70 years old now, and the younger generation, like my sons and grandsons, they're not on a farm. They like what I do on the farm, but they like to eat good and all this here stuff. So,
why? Can I ask you something? So we did a show on this recently. Why? Why don't they see it as? Do you ever wonder why they don't see it as a future?
I understand it in a way. The younger generation today are used to a little bit more than what we were used to. We were brought up and we survived.
Yeah.
And my old man and my mother, they were down this farm here. There were 7 of us in the family. My old man, that's all he did was farm, just a little mixed farm.
Yeah.
And we were used to it. You had no money, but you got by. You always ate good.
Right.
You had a roof over your head, everything that. But the younger generation today, and I can see that, they got better educated. It's not that we didn't have a chance to get educated. We didn't want to get educated.
Right.
We went to work and made a living. The younger people I know, our 2 sons got educated. And one fellow went in the service. He was there for 25 years or so. And been all over the world and into the wars and stuff like that. He's now, like I said, now retired. My other son worked with me on the farm. We milk cows, and we're good at it. And we done good at it. But for some reason, 15, 16 years ago, another farmer called me up from the other end of the island, see if I'd be interested in selling my quota system and stuff like that. Never crossed my mind, but I said I'm always interested in talking. And we sat down on a Saturday morning at 8 o'clock in his accountant's office, and at 8:30, I had sold my quota. Never thought it was going to happen, but I had a price onto it, as I said, of something, and I don't go back on my word.
Yeah.
And we shook hands, and it happened. So my son wasn't even home at the time. I was the boss. We both talked about everything, but he was up in Ontario with one of his sons at hockey in the middle of July. And I called him up. I said, I think we're done milking cows here in the next 2 or 3 months. It took a while for it to go through.
Yeah.
And he said, okay. So when he got home, we discussed it all. But he said, I think we grew up in a fishing area. It's all fishing here.
Yeah.
And I did fish for years, never my own setup, but I fished with other people. And he said, I think I'll get into the fishing business. So he did, and he done well at it. And started off with 1 lobster gear, and now they have 5.
Oh, wow.
And they're making an easier living, a lot easier living. Like a lot of young people don't understand that today, this farming and all this here stuff. And they kind of bitch a bit about the fishing. There's not enough money. Maybe we're not getting paid enough and everything like that. Like my son says, they never farmed. He said, if they had a farm, they'd know how good this is. He said, I call this, and he does. He said, we're on vacation. Fishing around here now, we're on vacation.
Yeah. Well, because he knows, right? It's like
Well,
everything else. So a little bit of background about me, and you and I
Yeah.
just met, but I grew up in Toronto,
Right.
right? One of my first jobs was working at Canada Packers,
Hey, yep.
right? With a meat processing plant where cattle used to come in on trains
Yep.
and they used to offload it, and then we used to work, and I used to load trucks. And so from there, as I got older, I actually did the racetrack business. So I mentioned to you, I met Jim in the horse business.
Yep.
And after I finished in Canada, I went to the U.S. and I ended up building two properties, one in Oklahoma and one in Texas,
Okay.
Lone Star.
Yeah.
Two racetracks for the company I was working for. So the cattle business was all around me all the time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
In one way or another. So when Jim said I could come meet you, I was really interested because of what you'd done and what you'd created. So now you're here, right? You're farming. You get the cattle and the milk and the dairy. So you decide one day to take the seaweed. How do you get to the seaweed part? Because when I'm reading the story and I'm trying to think about it, did you just is it part of your background, or did you?
Well, we're always in the sea, as our family, like everybody around here, always been in the seaweed business. Back then, up until 20 years ago, 25 years ago, it was the Irish moss.
Okay.
And this was the Irish moss capital of the world, Western PEI here.
Right.
And we were always at it. And you made good money, you spent money, and everything was booming in the Irish moss industry. Well, it went to hell. There's no Irish moss industry left. Right. So we were always farming, and my son and I were milking cows. We were milking, 50, 55 cows. And I decided, or we both decided, people wanted, a company in Ontario was talking to us about going organic. Oh. I liked the organic route. I liked it.
Yeah.
So we talked about it for a year or more. So we did. There was 5 or 6 small 50 cow herds on the island that decided we're going organic. And then we did. It was working out good for us, but the feed we had to buy and the minerals and vitamins and stuff we had to buy was very, very expensive. Well, I said, Jesus, we're living here on the beach. We've been involved in the seaweed all our life here. Let's start feeding the seaweed to the cattle for their minerals and vitamin source. So I started. I was the only one that I never let on to nobody or nothing like that. I started it. And it was 100%. Everything was going along good. And we have, every month, we'd have a vet come in and check all our cows, which I always done that. And they started seeing a difference within a month or so after we were feeding the seaweed. And they didn't know why they were seeing this difference. So they asked me one day, because we had never told nobody what we were doing. Asked me one day, what are you doing different? Well, I said, why are you seeing different? I knew there was a difference. Well, he said, first of all, it's your conception rate in your cows.
Yeah.
Holstein herd, we were pushing them along. And we were running around 60, 65% in our conception rate. Well, we're up above 90 at this time.
Wow. Big difference.
So I told her that. Well, she looked at me foolish looking. She said, yeah, you might be crazy. She never heard tell of it or anything like that. And then you can tell they're looking at cattle and everything. So then she got telling it to other people. And then other people started coming to us to get some to see what we were doing. And it started from there.
Yeah.
I think we're 19 or 20 years. And then to make it a little bit bigger, I had no money. We had no money, and I had to invest some money. So a friend of mine that I had known, he was in the seafood business all his life, Gary Jenkins, he had a couple of fish companies. He set up the oyster company down in Chile. And he was big in it here, and he had a fish plant and a lobster plant just down the road here, and him and I had been friends and stuff like that, and he said he has sold out. And that's 20 years ago. He was 70-some years old, and he said, I like what you're doing here. He said, so him and I teamed up. You couldn't borrow me money. No one took me serious.